Hello, Algebra 1 students, and welcome to your notes for Section B of Unit 2, Solving with Variables on Both Sides. Mrs. Scott here. Let's dive in. The first part is saying, what's the difference? What's the difference between these two equations? Take a look. They look very similar. They both have 4x and 2x, a 5 and a 7. The difference is the placement. So the equation on the left-hand side has one variable on either side of the equal sign, okay? Whereas the one on the right has the variables on the same side of the equal sign. They're both on the left. We've solved equations like this, so I'm going to finish solving this one. When I have variables that are on the same side of the equal sign, I can just combine like terms. So 4x and 2x makes 6x plus 5 equals 7. Let's finish solving this. I'm going to get x by itself, so I'm going to start by subtracting over 5. So I'm left with a 6x equals 7 minus 5, which is 2. And then I divide both sides by 6. And I'm left with x equals 2/6, which reduces to 1/3. Fraction answers are okay. They are allowed. Don't be afraid of fraction answers. So x is 1/3 is the correct answer when the variables are on the same side. If I have variables on opposite sides, then the math becomes a little bit different. So we're going to solve this problem down here. So we need to clean up the equation by combining my variables. But when they're on the opposite side of the equal sign, to combine them, I need to actually subtract over the variable to the other side. So in order to move the 2x, which is positive, over to the other side, I'm actually going to subtract it over. So when we move things from one side of the equation to the other, we have to do an opposite operation of whatever it is on the original side. So if I have, like I did up here, I had a plus 5. In order to bring that 5 over to the other side, I had to subtract it. It's the same idea with variables. In order to bring this 2x over to the other side, I have to subtract it over. And it's going to combine with the other term that has an x. So it only will combine with the x's on the other side. And 4x minus 2x is 2x. Drop everything else down. And now I'm just going to subtract over the 5, because that's how you move something to the other side of the equal sign. You have to subtract. And if it was a minus 5, I would be adding, right? It just depends on the original problem. I'm left with a 2x equals 2. No fraction answer here. Divide both sides by 2. So x equals 1. Okay? So that is the main idea. So I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit so I can get all my notes in. The goal is always to get the variables to the same side. I like to get them to the left, personally. So get the variables on the same side. It doesn't matter what side you get them to. Although, like I said, I prefer the left. So let's do a couple practice problems together. We're going to do these 5 problems, and then you guys are going to try some on your own. Starting with letter A. So remember, now some people like to draw a line where the equal sign is to remember, hey, that's like a barrier. That's like a wall. In order to get through the wall, I gotta move it over by subtracting. Okay? You don't have to draw the line, but you can. So I'm going to move over the 4x by subtracting it over. And I get a 2x plus 12 equals 2. Next, I'm going to move the 12 over. So subtract over the 12. Since it was a plus 12, I've got to do minus 12 to move it over to the other side. I'm left with a 2x equals negative 10. Then divide both sides by 2. So x is negative 5. There we go. All right, next one. Again, let's draw a little line. Again, you don't have to do this, but you can. I'm going to move my x's to the left. Now be careful, because on the right-hand side, I have a minus 2x. So in order to move that over, instead of subtracting over, I'm going to have to add. You got to do the opposite of whatever's originally happening. So a minus 2x, to add it, to bring it over, I got to add it. All right, here we go. We got 8x plus 2x, which is 10x, minus 14 equals 16. Now, add over the 14. Okay, so 16 plus 14 is 30. And now we're just going to divide both sides by 10. So we have x equals 3. Moving right along, I know I'm going fast, so if you need to stop, pause the video, and go back and rewatch, that's totally fine. That's the best part about making or watching math videos, okay? So now this one's weird, because if I bring this 19x to this side, then there's going to be nothing left on the right. Well, if there's nothing left on the right, that's okay. We could put 0. But instead, I'm going to do a little shortcut. I'm going to switch things up. Even though I normally like to bring everything to the left, sometimes it just makes more sense to bring something over to the right. So in order to bring the 20x over, I'm going to subtract it. Because really, it doesn't matter which way you go. It doesn't really matter. I just like to have the x on the left. I'm left with a positive 1 equals 19 minus 20 is negative 1x. And just like before, we're trying to get x by itself, so let's just divide by negative 1, and I'm left with negative 1 equals x. So I could rewrite that as x equals negative 1, or I could leave it, doesn't matter. All right, let's step up our game for the last 2 examples. So last 2 examples of the video, here we go. Let's start. We still, just like multi-step equations, we've got to distribute first if needed. So I'm going to distribute a 2x, 3 times 2 is 6. Plus x equals 24 minus 3x. So we've got to clean this up before we start moving from one side to the other. Notice, okay, that these 2 x's are on the same side. So one of the biggest mistakes is that people start like subtracting this x over. That is not needed because look, these 2 are on the same side of the equal sign. When we're on the same side, we just combine like normal. So I have a 3x plus 6 equals 24 minus 3x. Again, this 3x just came from combining. 2x plus 1x is 3x. All right, next step. I'm going to bring this 3x over to the left. So now I'm adding over. Why? Because these x's are on opposite sides. So 3 plus 3 is 6. X plus 6 equals 24. Let's keep going. I'm just going to shrink my work down a little bit so it all can fit. Perfect. Now I will subtract over 6. So I get 6x equals 18. And last step, divide by 6, divide by 6. We get x equals 3. I love solving equations. There's just a nice rhythm to it, right? The dividing over, so on and so forth. And we got one more, and we'll call it a day. Now, of course, I stepped it up a notch with this one because when I distribute with a negative, the negative has to go to both of the things in the parentheses. So I end up with a 14 minus 2x minus 2 because the negative went with the 2 to multiply to a positive 1 equals 2x plus 48. All right, we're going to keep going. 14 minus 2 gives me a 12 minus 2x equals 2x plus 48. Now, it doesn't matter which way I bring my x's. Some people might want to bring the x's to the right so that the x's stay positive. That doesn't really matter to me, so I'm going to bring my x's to the left. Again, though, if you want to do it the other way, that's okay. Oopsies, I crossed off the wrong one. We got 12 equals, oh, I'm wrong. 12 minus 4x, I'm losing my mojo, equals 48. Here we go. Let's get it back. So now I'm going to subtract over 12. All right, so 48 minus 12 is 36. And now divide, last step, by negative 4. So x equals negative 9. Okay. So that's where we're going to stop for now. So I just went over how to do a bunch of problems where I have variables on both sides of the equation. We started small, we worked our way up to some harder examples, but now it's your turn. So before I see you guys next, I would like you to try these 8 problems. These problems are all with variables on both sides, similar to the ones I just did. And these ones are mixed practice. So some of them have variables on both sides and some are just a little bit more challenging from the section A of notes. You do not need to do your Math iExcel yet, okay? We will do that during class. So before I see you next, I just need you to try these 8 problems. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.